On our last show, we covered a whole slew of our listeners' what if questions. And for today's show, it's part 2, and the questions keep rolling in. Questions of all kinds, like what if elk are screaming yesterday in the same spot and it's crickets today? What if elk are only responding after dark? What if the wind is constantly changing directions? Or what if your diaphragm call gets stretched and sounds horrible and you're 3 miles from camp? And y'all, if the questions keep rolling in like this, Joe's already talking part 3. So get ready. The boys are in the house and we plan on tackling those questions and many, many more. So my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gilly. You want to hunt elk? They live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 30,000 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. First time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy our show. And as always, for those blue collar hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm Gilbert Ornelas, the host to your show, coming to you from Spring, Texas. And that's right, we got the whole crew in the house tonight. We've got the Venezuelan Mafia in the house, Mr. Luis Gonzalez and Manano Graterón. We've got the Flatlander in the house, Mr. Cole Wilkes himself, and our elk hunting coaches out of Cimarron, New Mexico, WWJGD's in the house, and the Ninja, Leroy Chavez. We're only missing the legend, R.C. Knox, tonight, but we wish him well, and we'll see him in a future episode for sure. Ain't that right, Joe?
Yeah,
What's up, fellas?
Yeah, he's on the road, and
what up?
It's one of those things, man, that we try not to go over 6 on this thing, man, or things get a little bit crazy there. And Cole was gracious enough to fill in, man, for Ride the Horse for RC, man. And
I feel honored.
And really did a great job last week. I really enjoyed last week's show. I thought there was so much there, so much content. And, you know, I think when people send in these things, and listen, y'all, if you have what ifs, because they've been coming in and we're doing our best to hit these, we've got them on list. And if we decide to do another show in between, we're going to come back with what ifs, because so you just send them to us. There's so many things that have happened to y'all out there, and you're like, man, you know, and we talk about stuff and you think to yourself, but what if this happened, or what if that happened? Send it to us, man. We'll throw your what if on here. We'll have a discussion. That doesn't mean what we say is gospel truth or we know all the answers, but you will get our opinion from our experience, and we'll go with that, right? And
absolutely.
And you'll even hear us. I mean, I don't know if you listened to the last show, but, you know, we go back and forth about, but what about this? Oh, that's really cool that way. So there's a lot of information that can be covered. So send those what ifs. You can send them to me, Joe, Joe, at ElkBros.com. Okay. Send them up there. Hey, and we got both the Mafia tonight.
We do. We got Manano from Northern Don and the leader in Katy, Texas, Luis Gonzalez.
Okay, Beto. Okay, Houston, we got a problem.
Houston, we have a problem.
That was cold, Beto.
Okay, Beto.
Love you.
Well, now
I figured I'd stir the pot early, Joe.
Last podcast, I just realized that Joe by default got when he got disconnected by default, he got like Luis hooked up to the, like, as a host of the show.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we just go in ranking order, bro. That's it.
Right.
I mean,
right now,
Beto.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, it's you just got to know, that you're last. That's it.
Well, usually I'm not the people that keep hard feeling, but I wrote it down, Joe, and you as well, Beto.
It's all right, brother. I think I'll live to see another day.
So, Manano, let me teach you something about American sports and how we feel about things. Is you got to have the point guard, right? But man, you need those guys banging the boards because that's
No
where it's
doubt.
done right there, right? So
Doing
you
the
just keep
heavy
banging
lifting.
the boards, bro.
Got to be a doer, Manano.
He
You know,
has
you're
no
a
idea
doer.
what you just
You're a
said.
doer now, brother.
Yeah,
He has no idea
absolutely.
what we just said. Huh? You know what's so funny is it's really kind of cool because for our listeners out there, the bros, the Elk Bros this year, our crew is going to be hunting elk and moose at the same time in Canada together here in the beginning of September. And we're going to be hunting with our Can-Am crew. We got Dylan, we got Travis, we got Brian, right? We got all these guys that are coming in to help us out. Daryl, these guys are helping us. They're going to be our partners. We're going to hunt with them. We're going to have a full camp. And so because of that, we started a little WhatsApp group.
Yeah, Can-Am.
the Can-Am ElkBros
Loved it.
there, right? And I, as soon as I did it right away, Manano and Luis start hammering these guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, man, I hope them boys don't wear their feelings on their sleeves. But they're straight up hockey fans, man. Them guys get below the belt.
I loved it. I mean, right off the bat, I mean, I could see the same dynamics that we have within our group. So I was like, man, this is going to be perfect.
Well, yeah, man. These guys are like, Americans, dude. What are we in for?
Yeah, for real.
And Cole, you're heading to Oregon, right?
Yeah, I'm headed to Oregon. We're going to be hunting the Roosevelts. I can't wait for that. It's going to be super cool.
Very cool.
Yep. What part of Oregon y'all going to be in, Cole?
We'll be right on the coast, man.
Oh, wow. Coastal Rosies. That can be cool, brother.
We've got some really, really cool, exciting things happening this season, man. And whoever's in our coached hunt, we've got that locked in and ready. We're getting ready to have our big giveaway for the hunt with the ElkBros. And man, I tell you what, Drifter Trailers out of Georgia is partnering with us. And the winner of that is not only getting a tag and coming into camp and hunting with us and hunting with the other boys that we have in camp, but Steve out of Drifter Trailers, our man Steve, is going to be driving an extreme trailer and delivering it personally at camp to the winner. A $20,000 camper is going to go to the winner.
Wow.
That's so cool, Joe.
And that includes some of the coaches as well.
I'm putting in.
I'm putting in. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, man, the stuff that Steve builds at Drifter Trailers is phenomenal. And it's so exciting that we're doing something at this level and that the individual that's going to be there is going to really they're going to come out with knowledge, they're going to come out with experience, they're going to be coached all that time prior to get there, and they're going to drive away in a camper. They are going to have the hunt of a lifetime. And that's just really, really exciting, man.
Joe, also, it's not really kind of in the script for us to talk about this, but I'm really taken aback by our brothers over at the Bow Hitch, Mondo and the guys that are reaching out and doing something every day to pay it forward, right? And this random act of kindness stuff, y'all got to go to Mondo, the Bow Hitch's IG
Instagram
platform. Yeah, his Instagram platform, and enter to win multiple prizes. I mean, it's some crazy stuff, like from a hunt for axis in Maui or something like that. I mean, in Hawaii, and then we, here at ElkBros, we've thrown in our cow tag, and I mean, it's there's a whole lot of really cool prizes. So if our listeners, man, really go check out Mondo and the Bow Hitch and get behind this random act of kindness. I've taken it upon myself every Thursday to do something really cool and try to help my fellow brothers out. No matter where we are in line, I'm going to help one of them out. So we're blessed to be where we're at. So we're going to try to pay it forward through these random acts of kindness. So
I thought that was awesome that you said that a lot of times when you go on that particular day and you're in line to pay for yours, you just pay for the person behind you, which is really, really awesome. And I took a jab at you because I said, yeah, now we know what sucks. It sucks to be two guys behind Gil.
Yeah, that's for sure. But, it's the least I can do. And we try to And I've taught my kids this too, Joe. You know, we get a lot of people that we're here in the Houston area, and they walk up to you and ask you for something. And everybody that's ever walked up and asked me for something, if I got it, I'm giving it. And some people call me crazy, but at the end of the day, the good Lord put them in your walk or your path, and it ain't up to me to worry about what they do with it. It's up to me to give it. So,
So that's Gilbert at ElkBros.com.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you got to be in person, Joe. Don't be sending me all these emails and everything. So if you burn my email box up, I'm gonna turn it on you, man. But look, I'm so down with the random act of kindness thing.
Absolutely.
Mondo and those guys are doing. And look, he's got a great product too, guys. I mean, carrying your bow sucks. I'm not just giving a shameless plug out there for him. I use the product and it is phenomenal as far as elk hunting goes. If you don't know what it is, check them out on Instagram or go to thebowhitch.com. I mean, these guys are the real deal, and they're just such good people.
And that is thebowhitch.com. And I'm gonna tell you this. I've been guiding for over 25 years, and I've had guys show up that I'm guiding with slings and different carrying systems that I've told them to leave it in camp, because too many times those systems have cost us opportunities. This is the first carrying system that I have and that I use because it is just so quick, easy. You know, you're not having to reach behind you. You're not having arrows fall off. You're not having to take something off of each of the wheels. I mean, it is just so good. It's quality, man. And it's something that it doesn't do anything to mess up your configuration of your bow, to change it. It just falls in, it's light, it's easy to put on. It's a great product. And I tell you what, that thing's going to be like stabilizers one day. Everybody's going to.
I agree 100%, man. And just the good people that own the company and that are running the company, they touch my heart every time they go and do something like this. So I just wanted to give them a shout out. But like I said, man, this was straight off the cuff. So at the end of the day, Mondo, we appreciate you guys. Luis, why don't you get us started off in our Elk Bros mailbox, brother?
The mailbox comes from David Shelton, Washington.
Yeah, David from Shelton, Washington.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, David from Shelton,
limitation.
Washington.
It's okay.
Yeah, we actually had a question from him last week, and he had another one that was really, really cool. And we actually had a what if that came in similar to this, so this will be kind of cool. Go ahead, man.
So he's saying we are all non-residents to 49 states, and as such, we have to play the game to get tags outside of our home state. I recently tried my luck with Idaho on December 1st with everyone else. My experience did not go that great. I tried to log in for over an hour, and when I finally got through, I was 30,000 plus in line. And at that point, I knew I was not getting a tag this time. I would like to contact the Idaho Fish and Game and vent a little, but ultimately ask if they are working on fixing the experience on the website for the next year. Do you think there is any point in doing so? What would you guys do? I know that as a non-resident, Idaho Fish and Game doesn't have to answer to me and my concerns. Or do you think it can actually have an impact if enough of us contact them?
What do you think, Cole? You hunted there this past year.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's so tough. I was just talking about this earlier because I was actually not informed about Arizona changing their rules. And just Monday, I went to go online and purchase a Coos deer tag, and they changed the way you have to buy a OTC tag there now. And they were completely sold out, whereas just 2 years ago, you know, I went and hunted and had a great time. But yeah, man.
Do you think as a non-resident, dude, you asking or giving complaints or anything like that is going to have an effect?
Yeah, man. I think we all need to say something, because you're right. Like I want to hunt every state in the nation, and it's getting harder and harder for me to do that every year because of the way some of these systems are set up and stuff. I mean, but that being said, I had that same exact experience last year in Idaho, and a week later, everybody that that ended up getting a tag that wasn't that great, ended up turning those tags back in, and then Idaho Fish and Game put them back on the website. And I actually saw myself over 300 different tags that I could have chose from, across the state. That being said, they were not, they're not anything special. They weren't sought after tags. They were very rough units and with very low density of animals, but the opportunities are still there. So, it's just, it's the luck of the draw. Maybe next year you might be, the 1,000th dude in line,
Yeah.
So that's just, that's happening everywhere.
Yeah, but I think a big part of what's happening, like we see prices increasing as well. We see opportunity going less. We see where basically a lot of this, and when you do that, when you make less opportunity, then it's becomes supply and demand, and then prices start actually jacking up. And I mean, the prices I've seen hunts go to in the last 3 years, and what it's done is unbelievable. People now are paying the same amount just for a tag, a landowner tag or a tag to hunt that they were paying for a guided hunt.
Fully guided hunt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or right at it, man, with no room for any kind of ceiling on, for anybody make any money that's actually putting the work in. So I really, when I see something like this, David, I think that other states don't necessarily listen to David or Joe or Luis or any of us. I think they listen to Benjamin.
Yeah.
And
money talks and BS walks.
I think when people quit using their system, when people and they see all of a sudden their revenue, because the amount of revenue that goes into states from out-of-state hunter is phenomenal. And I mean, and it just doesn't impact just the people that are guiding and stuff. It impacts the hotels, impacts the grocery stores, the gas down the road, it's the Walmarts, the sporting goods places, everybody utilizes
everything.
What's that?
Yeah, mom and pop restaurants.
Yeah, it affects everything that we do. We go spend money to go eat and drink and do whatever we're doing in between. And
let me ask you how much you spend in ice alone at a convenience store.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
In ice alone, it'll cost you over 120, 150 bucks by the time you're done. And that's going into those local areas. So honestly, for me, I would just tell people, man, if you're fed up with that, the best way to send a message is anytime that you buy something or do something like that, you're voting and giving either an affirmation or not. And when they start seeing things, go down, and does that mean that people are going to lose opportunities to hunt? Absolutely. But I got news for you. If we keep going in this direction, you're going to lose those opportunities to hunt, because right now every state is becoming me and mine, and so as they make that, opportunity smaller and smaller and smaller, there's two effects that happen with that. What I've seen a big effect is a lot of people go, well, we don't want the non-residents coming in, we want everything for the residents. So when you start denying that opportunity, you have people that become residents of those states that were not. And you can see it happening all over the West, New Mexico, different places where the population in those elk states are exploding so that people can have opportunities for the type of passion and recreation that they do. So, that's I don't know that, I don't know how much, unless, everybody started hammering some of these places at the same time, right?
Well, I can tell Mr. David, if it makes him feel better, do it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it makes you feel better, man, be professional and be nice. Don't send no nasty grams to them, but man, let them know how you feel. I mean, it can't hurt.
Yeah, I agree.
Can't hurt.
Yeah, it can't hurt. You just be professional and be respectful. Let them know how you feel. I mean, if it'll make you feel better.
Feedback.
So, do we think it's going to make a difference? Don't know. We sure as heck, if you don't do it, you won't ever know.
Yeah, and the thing that drives me nuts about like what Idaho's doing is they call it OTC, and it's not OTC, man. I mean,
No.
no matter what
It's
time
left
you log
OTC.
in,
Leftover OTC.
well, and no matter what time you log in, you're given a random number that puts you in a line. That's a lottery, basically.
Yeah,
It's not
it is.
OTC, man. You know,
That's right.
I wish they'd go back to everything, get it off of the computers and have it in the stores where people wait in line and go and buy their licenses, man. I wish they go back to
Yeah.
that.
Well, guys, you know what time it is. It's time for
Shout
the
out.
Elk Bros shout outs. If you're new to our show, this is just a shout out to our followers from our cities with the most listeners, topping our charts this week, Joe.
Yep. And first, guys, I wanted to do this here. I want to personally thank all of you that have taken the time to help us by subscribing and leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. Now, I know some people have left some on some other formats too, but Apple Podcasts is the one that really helps us out a lot because it's easier to do. And and actually, I think 90% of listeners are actually using Apple on that.
Wow.
So I wanted to thank you guys because you do not know how important those reviews are to our show's growth and how much we appreciate you being able to help us help you. You know, it's your way of personally interacting with us. It's your way to help us build listenership, to make us credible. It's your way to let us know whether or not what we do is of value. And that's something that we talk about all the time, you know, because of the time we put into it. So from the bottom of our elk hunting hearts here at ElkBros, thank you, thank you, thank you. Right.
Man. Yes, sir.
And so with that said, a huge shout out to those listeners that have taken the time and leave us review on Apple Podcasts. Hunter022, he said that even after hunting, this was so cool, man. Even after hunting and guiding with his cousin and best friend Mark, hunting elk for 36 years, they not only love the stories, but he feels that he learns something every time from listening. And that's a huge compliment when you get that, man. He says he gets excited and he hears a nugget and calls them, hey, man, we got to try this and stuff. So that's pretty cool. And Jim Coyle, the YO elk hunter, Jim is, I'm going to give you a salute, Jim. He said to us, thanks for all you do. He has fun listening. And he said, boys, just keep grinding, man. And then long life.
Amen.
Yeah, amen. Long life.
Long life. He says that our show is amazing and so much help to a first generation hunter, that the information he has learned is invaluable because now he feels like he can actually take his own kids into the woods and feel like he knows something, can pass that on, that passion. So I wanted to thank those three people, man. And so let's head over to our top listening cities. And Cole, you kick it off for us, man.
Heck yeah. Well, y'all, known as Hub City, this week's top listening city is the location of Tualatin Valley's Beervana, with several craft beer breweries on the city's east side, roll-off farms, and a amusement park like farm in the destination for thousands of fans of TLC's reality show, Little People, Big World, in Hillsboro, Oregon. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Little People, Big
How
World.
many little people are in that big world over there?
You'd be surprised, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, I bet.
You'd be
yeah,
surprised.
that's
The
a
Northwest Coast showing up.
How many do you think elk hunt?
ton,
Bunch.
ton of people.
Give us a shout out, Hillsboro. Your
Yeah, thanks,
Little People,
Hillsboro,
Big
man.
World.
Okay, second city. This southwest suburb of Chicago was the earliest and most important steel-making community in the Chicago area. It still manufactures automobile body stamping, railroad freight cars, and auto parts. And this is in Palos Heights, Illinois.
Palos Heights, Illinois, in the
Palos
house.
Heights, Illinois.
Man,
Upper Midwest comes in.
well, I haven't told you, man. I think Chicago is always like in our top 5 listeners.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people there.
Yeah,
Hunt.
Hmm.
that's just right off there. So that's awesome, man.
Not to be mistaken for its namesake, in Massachusetts, this city is a commercial hub and Money Magazine's best place to live in 2020. Home to America's Stonehenge. Stonehenge.
Stonehenge, yeah.
Yeah, a stone structure of disputed origin that is most likely the oldest man-made constructions in the U.S. This is none of Salem, New Hampshire.
Salam alaikum. No, that's Salem, bro.
Salem.
Yeah, Salem.
Salam alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Yeah.
Alaikum salam.
Salem, man.
Salem.
And that's what he said. Not Salem, Mass, but Salem, New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Right
Yeah,
over there. Yeah. And I don't know if I had no idea. Had anybody else heard about America's Stonehenge?
No.
No.
I don't
Check it
believe
out.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
look it up and
I
go up
Google
there, man. Like over 4,000 years old, this
Yeah.
is. And just like Stonehenge in England, it was built
England,
by
yeah.
ancient people, and they actually use it as a calendar. It was and still can be used to determine specific solar and lunar events of the year. Yeah, if I didn't have a cell phone, I wouldn't know what day it is, man.
Anymore, that's for sure. Well, guys, the next top listening city, once known as Never Sweat, due to the fact that the atmosphere and the climate were such that no matter how hard you worked, you would never sweat. Wow, I don't know if that would happen for me, Joe.
I was just
man.
thinking.
Wow. It's located 20 miles from the Grand Teton National Park and 90 miles from Yellowstone Park in Du Bois, Wyoming.
The boy, Wyoming.
Boy,
Wyoming.
Wyo in the
That's cool.
house.
Yes, sir.
Hey,
And that, if you guys have never been to the Grand Teton National Park or Yellowstone, one of the most, in Glacier National Park, I mean, all of those parks up there are some of the most beautiful places in the United States. That's for sure.
incredible fishing.
Yes.
Fishing is
absolutely.
just
Mhm.
outstanding. But I know, Gil, what do you say we take a trip up there and see if we can sweat?
I guarantee you, I can, brother. I guarantee you, boy.
Me and my wife camped at Jenny Lake right there at the bottom of the
Tetons.
Tetons, and
Yeah.
we hiked up a pretty good ways up to these falls, and I guarantee you I sweat the whole way.
Dude, I remember September 6th, 2019, it snowed like 6 inches up there in where we were hunting in New Mexico. And I'm telling you, I sweat like crazy going out there hunting in that snow. I was like, there's no way I'm going to sweat. Oh my gosh, dude. It was crazy, man. And it was in the 20s, in the teens that day, you know, crazy. I don't know, man. I'm built for it.
But you know, like a lot of people, and I'm not just saying this as you, Gil, but I do know this too. Like I tell people, whenever you get up in the morning, whatever you're wearing around camp, before you head out, you better take off 2 layers because
Yeah.
whatever you need to be warm when you're in camp and sitting still and not doing anything, once you start getting out there and that heat, that furnace comes on, and sheesh, man.
Yeah, I mean, when we were traveling mostly about an hour to go to our hunting area last year, Joe, I'd have to carry a jacket with me to ride in the side by side because, just for the drive. But when I get there, I'd peel all that stuff off to go get off, and it was still cold, but I'd have to peel all that junk off and leave it there in the bike because I mean, I tried it the first morning. I like to die. I was so hot. Had to pack all that stuff on my back in about 20 minutes, you know.
Yeah. I guarantee you, man, once you start going up your first incline, temperatures change real quick.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Let's
All right,
get
guys,
to the
let's
main
hit the main
content and the
content.
what ifs, brother.
Yep. Who wants to start us off, man?
I'll start us off with the first one that
Yeah, Jeff.
we got. And it says, what if you are set up with a bull responding, but your location and shooting lanes are bad? Well, the obvious answer would be to move your location.
move.
Yeah.
You know,
Move quickly.
and several reasons for that. And I think everybody can probably give us a reason for that. So I know sometimes you want to be above them, sometimes below them. So what do you guys think? What would be a better location?
Well,
Check the
I think the
wind.
problem I've seen
Wind.
with people is the wind, of course, is
Well,
part of
the
the issue,
wind, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I think what happens and why this what if question is a lot of people, once they get set up, they just stay there, man. And they just insist that they're going to bring the animal their way into a certain point. But, you know, or, you know, their shooting lanes are bad. Maybe they see the animal coming and they're worried that if they try to move, that it's going to booger that critter, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We have to move. I mean, I think, Joe, we, you know, this past season,
Mhm.
you know, the only shot I had is, you know, we were behind a bunch of trees, right? And, you know, we had to kind of move. You had to move to the side of the tree, and I had to move below some branches to try to get a shot. And all that while the animal was coming in.
Yep. And I
So,
think that's a huge mistake when guys do not move because they lock up. They're worried about, you know, well, if that animal sees me, that they're going to go off. Well, it does not matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter if that animal walks off or not, because it's going to be the same situation if you don't have a shooting
yeah,
lane.
you're going to get the
Right.
same result of not
Right.
getting a shot. But
Well, and a lot
the
of
thing
times-
is, too, you can always really kind of watch the behavior of the animal and then see when it's behind
Mhm.
where its
When you're
visibility
covered.
is getting blocked. You know, if it's going behind a pine tree, if it's going through an area, and then make the move while you know he can't see you.
Right.
I've
Take
always-
those opportunities.
I've always liked to move when the animal's moving.
Moving. Yeah.
Too.
Right.
And you know, don't get spun out if he does see you. Because I'm telling you, they're going to react to that movement, but don't get spun out. I mean, I was on a coached hunt this year with Mr. Tom Roth, and the bull caught Tom moving the first time he came in. He caught him moving and he boogered. I said, man, get in here. We got to change our setup. Get in here tighter to this cover. I'll call him back. And he looked at me, he goes, there's no way you're calling that bull back. I said, I'll get in here. I'm going to call him back. And I mean, he didn't know what we were. He just saw some movement, right? He didn't smell us. He didn't know exactly what we were. He just kind of boogered because of the movement with Tom moving. I said, get in here tighter to this cover. We put him back in there, and man, it didn't take me, 4 or 5 more little chuckles in a couple long lost cow calls, and he was right back in the middle of our set. He knew there were elk in that area, but he saw something he didn't like moving. But I didn't lose hope. I mean, you can lose hope and boo-ray all about it, but you got to know that he blew out of there, because he saw something funny, but he can still hear he's going to come back, especially younger bulls, right?
Right.
So
There
don't
was a
give up.
hunt with you and me, Gil, when I had a decoy up, and here are these 2 big dudes hiding behind this decoy. I mean, there's no way that critter couldn't see
I got
one
that
of us.
recorded.
Yeah. and it's like, I'm going, Gil, you got a shot? And he's like, no, I'm holding the camera. You shoot. And I'm like, no, man, I'm looking here. You shoot. We're both trying to film and everything like that on it.
We're
And-
talking to one another, and the bulls
we're
are right
talking.
there.
The bull walks away and comes back 4 times.
Yeah.
4 times within
4 times.
40 yards, man, because of what we were doing there.
It
So,
was
yeah, you
three
can.
seasons ago, the day before we showed up to camp. Mexico. That's when it was.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, it was just me and Joe. We'd gone up there, and man, I'm telling you, anytime you get to spend time with the legend like Joe Gillia and call and be next to him, and I mean, it was just crazy. We got so enthralled in the whole daggum fiasco that we had going on that neither one of us killed the bull, man. We actually called a really big bull in during the set, and we were after him.
Really big.
And
Really.
really big, really big 7x7, and these other youngsters got in the set. And look, Big O ain't gonna daggum give nobody no rope. I'm shooting you if you're coming in. But we got so involved in filming and me filming him with the decoy, and shoot, I wasn't even worried about shooting the bull. I'm like, well, Joe's fixing to kill one of these guys, and he looks at me, he goes, "Go ahead, take the shot." I'm like, I don't even have my bow up, man. I'm videoing this thing,
You
dude.
take the shot.
Yeah, I'm on your 6. He's like, oh no, man. He goes, I'm way too wore out for holding this decoy up. You know? So it was a big time, but man, you can always get that bull back, man. Don't worry about moving.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna set up and call a bull, you should be aware of your setup.
Right.
You can't call a bull across the meadow. I know Joe and Gilbert did that once, but most people can't do that.
Right.
So be aware of where you set up. I mean, if you're going to sit down and set up, just look around you and see if it's a good situation or not.
But the issue is it can become dynamic. Like, we hear this bull is coming from a direction. Next thing we know, he's off to our right, circling in. And we're like, crap, man, I had perfect lanes right here. And that bull's over there now. Well, guess what? Unless you do not want an opportunity, you got to make a move. It's just that easy.
I don't even like to set up until I think I'm fixing to get busted, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it does.
Like I'm always looking and being like, oh, I can get there. Oh, I can get there. And I'm constantly trying to advance and knowing that I'm making sure I'm under cover the whole time I'm moving. And then like a setup is literally like I think he's fixing to be in my lap. And then, and then I make my setup. But it's a big difference too, though, whenever you have, if you're a solo or if you're hunting with a partner, because with a partner, man, you can get your partner to drop back and get way back behind you and just start fading off. And next thing you know, he pulls the bull right past you versus being solo. You don't have, you've got to kind of get creative to make that situation happen like that.
Yeah. Well, I want to kind of say just the opposite of what you did is that, like, it's kind of cool. You said, I don't even set up until till I'm almost busted. And I almost think of it the other way, is that I set up almost every time that I stop. I'm always aware of branches, what's behind me, where I can possibly shoot. But I'm also like what you're saying, man, it's dynamic. I know that I might have to bounce and I might have to bounce up to the next spot, to the next area. And I mean, even when I stop to call, I'm always making sure I'm in the shadows. I always make sure, even when I'm calling, especially if I'm in thick stuff, that I've got area, room enough to shoot, because I've had so many bulls surprise me that you're not expecting a right on top of you when you start calling. So it's the same idea.
Just all of a sudden pop up.
Same idea, just expressed two different ways, right?
Yeah. I think Joe made a point that I'm not sure if we've talked about. When you're walking and you're going to stop to call, stop and make sure you're in the shade. It makes it a lot more difficult for those elk to see you. Don't be out in the sunlight.
Understand that you're in, anytime you stop to call, you're being an animal, pulling an animal to you. So you are actually in a dynamic setup every time that you do that.
When I don't like to light up as a light bulb whenever he's in the shun.
I learned that lesson.
Look, I would have never killed the first bull I ever killed in my life if Joe would have not moved us. I mean, we got the bull coming, right? And
we literally sprinted, dude. We literally sprinted.
We did a good long ways too. I mean, luckily it was downhill, but at the end of the day, it was a hike, dude. And there were all kinds of lay downs. We were jumping over and everything. But Joe goes, I know where that bull's going. He's going to water. He's coming. We need to make the move now. And we literally sprinted for, I don't know, 70, 80
We were probably
yards.
parallel to that bull making all that racket too.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure if he had to turn and look through the woods, he probably seen us running down through there. But I mean, we ran down through this clear cut, dove into a big daggum downfall, a deadfall. We dove in it. And luckily we had that decoy up on the hill, and the bull cleared the obstacle. And when he cleared that obstacle, man, he was looking dead up on that hill at that decoy, and Joe made a sweet little cow sound. But if we don't sprint all that way and do what we need to do, I don't ever kill that first bull. So man, if you got a bad location and you feel like your shooting lanes are bad, brother, get on your horse, make it better.
I got one here that I'm reading that really resonates with me, but I'm not going to say any names. It says, what if your partner Manano is horrible at calling, but you need him to pull a bull by you for a shot?
Hunt with Big O. You know, I heard Manano making some noise this year, and I think he's got it down, man. I think he can make the cow sounds, man. I think he's got it going on, man.
Absolutely,
for
bro.
sure.
But
So,
you know how he is.
yeah.
Look,
That's
I
hilarious.
always hear people saying that they don't want to call because they're not good at it. Now, when I hear that, I think that number one, they don't feel like they can bugle well, or they don't feel like they can cow call well. That's
Right.
because that's what 90% of the people are doing. They're bugling, they're cow calling. And what I'd like to tell somebody in that situation is, man, make sure that your partner learns that there's other noises that he can make that he can just do with his voice. He can rake a
Making the
tree. You know, he can roll some rocks.
Well-
He can make some pants, and he can make some moans and groans. And I mean, there's a lot of noises that you can do that are very easy, and there are also low
Subtle.
audible noises that will pull an animal to you. So,
Look,
How
and
about
if your
raking?
partner's
raking,
look,
yeah, that's what I
raking
said.
for sure. And if your partner you feel like is not good enough with a diaphragm call or an external, man, you know, the good old hoochie mama is out there, baby, and you can send that thing anytime you want to. It makes good sound, good tone. There's been 1 million elk killed with one of them, and I'm telling you, you know, your partner, if he doesn't want to help you, it's just because he's not looking for the right reasons to help you, man. Because there's stuff out there that he can't help you with, even if y'all get split up and you feel like, hey, man, I need some help. I mean, he can use that hoochie mama and just start hoochie mamaing his way away from you like a lost cow. Yeah. And I'm telling you, things are going to happen, you know. I wouldn't get too spun out with that because there are so many ways for y'all to make the right. And listen, I'm going to tell y'all right now, I've heard some really horrible elk calls, and they were from elk. And it sounded horrible, right? And I've heard some really horrible people using a diaphragm, and it still called in elk. So y'all make a sound, man.
I was
Y'all
about
make
to
a
say
sound.
that we have encountered, I don't know how many hunters in the wood, and I would say the vast majority of them, you can tell right away that's a human. So
Yeah.
they don't sound like an elk, and they still call in elks.
Yes.
Now,
Keep working.
But
Keep
no,
working.
you can call me anytime you want to practice.
Yeah.
Don't let the weeds get you.
I don't know about you calling, but I definitely know you can carry on the whole elk out of a mountain
Oh my
by
God.
yourself.
One of the best elk callers in the country.
I liked one on here. I'll throw it out there.
All right.
I think this is pretty cool. What if you had to limit yourself to 5 items in your pack? What would they be?
Wow. That's a great question.
So I'm going to throw my 5 out there real quick. I think I'd for sure have my knife.
Mhm.
I'd have a compass. I'd have a tarp. I'd have my water bladder. And then last thing, I'd probably have something to eat, like a snack. That's what I'm taking.
Dig
Of course,
it.
I'm carrying my bow, and then I have my backpack to carry my elk out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm good.
I got
So you
I
said
would carry-
food, water, compass, knife, and what was the other one?
A tarp.
Tarp.
Instead of like
Yeah.
rain gear or something like that, I could
Yeah,
like make
okay.
a shelter.
So you're pretty
Yeah.
close to what I would say. Almost anybody.
lighter, number one.
Why?
Water,
Fire. Yep.
fire to
Okay.
make
All
fire.
right, lighter.
I can make fire with my knife.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Manano.
Yeah. Well, you're skilled doing it. I would use like a Joe's lighter, the
Big
30 cents
99
dollar.
cent.
Yeah. So yeah, lighter, definitely water. My knife, of course. Communication. My hammock. I don't care about if I.
Or so we
Yeah.
had lighter, knife, something to communicate with, right?
Yes.
Now you could probably get away with that being either on the outside of your pack or on your person on that one. And then you said your hammock, which I think is pretty huge myself, but
Yeah, and last one, I would carry a huge paracord, like a
Paracord.
little paracord or rope.
No food.
I'm a hunter, bro. I don't know about you.
Make fire and cook it up.
I don't know about you, but I'm a hunter.
Are you?
I'm a hunter. I dig it.
Anybody else, man?
Man, I'll have to start with the toilet paper.
Yeah, the kit. You gotta have the
Man
kit.
pun.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you though, dude, man,
Those
because
kids.
I would cheat quite a bit because I got pockets on my britches.
Yeah, I can carry on.
I was gonna say, man, I'll just give me a bigger pack.
Yeah.
If you can only carry 5 items, man, you might want to invest in a bigger pack, brother.
That's right.
Luis, man, Luis is like that ant that you had with the giant purse, where you can go, you can go to that game. What is that? Let's make a deal. And they're like, okay, I'll give somebody if you have like a thumbtack that's bent to the right. Luis would be, I got it.
How about the guy from the Globetrotters, the guy with the big hair that would just pull the stuff out of his hair?
Yeah, I was gonna say I probably have more than 5 things just in my bino harness.
Definitely. Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying is like if I had to do stuff in my pack, what's actually in my pack or on my pack, right? And I'm pretty close. Like I've got to have my poncho. My poncho does a lot of things. It's for rain. It's for a lot of things like that. I have to have my knife. I'm going to have 2 flashlights in there, that has that. So I've got food, water, 2 flashlights and my knife in my pack, or I can even do it on my person, but in my pockets and different things. Like I always have in one side of my pocket, I always have my compass and my phone in one for my communication. In my other pocket, I always have my wind indicator in that pocket. And then in my side pockets, I'll have things like my extra gloves and, my hat and neck gaiter and stuff like that. Stuff that constantly are going on and off.
Yeah, my nana would have all of those things in my pack.
Slavery. You're a slave.
But
I
dude,
definitely
the TP's got to be in there, man.
Yeah, I definitely have water. I definitely have my knife. I would have, of course, my form of communication would be on the outside.
Yeah, your Zolio.
Yeah, my Zolio or my phone be in my pockets on the outside. And I would definitely, if I'm carrying a phone where I'm using it for navigation, I would have a battery backup and a cord that fits for it. So, and then again, if I needed to carry something to make fire with, I can put it in my front pocket or my bellows pocket.
If I have food and water, I'm good.
I always wear a vest, so I've got many pockets to put things in. But yeah, if I can only carry those 5.
And what about your good stuff, Beto? The flask?
Man. But I can carry that in my front bellows pocket on my left leg.
Your flask.
Yeah. Or I could carry it in my vest pocket right here, man.
Yeah, reachable.
It's interesting what Manano said about a lighter because I always carry 2 lighters in my pack in case one for emergency purposes. They're only 99 cents, the little Bic lighters. I've never understood the whole knife and everything like that because I'm like, well, why don't I just light it with a lighter? It just made more sense to me than doing that. But in 35 years, I've never used one of my lighters during my.
Well, Beto used it this season.
You used it once, Joe.
I did.
When he was bragging.
We borrowed it from you too.
He was bragging about the.
But I mean, like in an emergency situation, yeah, you guys used it because they had some frayed line, and they pulled out their $40 lighters, and they were like, "Yeah, watch this." And so Manano's like, "Oh, you're so bad." He pulls it. Watch this. And I pulled out my 99-cent Bic.
Last year was the first year I used my jet lighter and also I used one of them little fire starters that I got, and man, it worked like a charm.
Grinders tuning in, thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Podcast. Our goal is to share our knowledge and help you flatten that learning curve so that you too can have some of the very same incredible experiences that have given all of us here at ElkBros a lifetime of memories. If you like what you hear or see, you can get all of this information plus so much more from our Base Camp Elk Hunting Training Camp, the first in a series of online courses from our Blue Collar Elk Academy. Our Base Camp Training Camp allows me to use my coaching style and share almost 40 years of elk hunting experiences successfully hunting elk on public lands, as well as over 20 years guiding hunters of all ages and experience levels. This course will be like nothing you have ever experienced in concept and structure, using success-based coaching techniques that will elevate your confidence and skill sets. Our camp will prepare you specifically from that final moment most in your control, those final minutes or seconds the elk is in front of you, backwards through each step and level, allowing you to see, visualize, understand, and relate every coaching point to what lies ahead, the next step, the next thought process, the next success. Because y'all, you've already been there. You know what it looks like. By tapping my 30 years of teaching and coaching experience, our camps are developed considering multiple learning modes with text, visuals, audio, as well as video. And Base Camp will benefit those new to elk hunting all the way to the 10 to 15 year vet. So if you are looking for that one thing to help you fill that tag this year, invest in the most important piece of equipment there is, you and your elk hunting knowledge. You can find the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Academy and the Base Camp Training Camp at ElkBros.com. That's ElkBros.com. Keep dreaming of the screaming, believing in achieving, and most of all, keep grinding.
Okay. What if the wind is constantly changing direction? Well, that's a bad situation to be.
But it happens the whole time. I mean,
All the
All
time.
the time.
how many times have you been
Happens all
like,
the time.
okay,
Well,
I'm walking this
especially-
way to get the wind right, and then I turn and go the other way, and the wind goes the other
Make
way. And
adjustments.
Yeah, especially in that particular hour between 9:30 and 10, where it's getting, hot.
Yeah,
The
the
wind
thermals are
start,
changing.
changing the thermals, and
The
that
what?
hour is just the
what?
thermals.
Thermals. You got
Oh,
it.
the thermals.
Don't make fun of me, Joe, please.
Just saying, bro. I love it, man. The thermals and the turtles. Yeah.
No,
it's-
the thermals.
The thermals. Yeah.
Yeah, so
They're
that
always
hour is
changing about
just,
that time of the day.
You know, okay, so I almost get to the point sometimes when it's doing that constantly. It depends. If I'm moving and trying to still locate animals and the wind is constantly changing, I
I'm still
don't
moving.
worry about it that much because it's doing the same thing around the animals. And I think elk really get uncomfortable when the wind is constantly changing like that.
yeah.
Because it's struggle for them and they smell something, they don't know which direction. I've actually had elk in front of me at 100 yards that caught my wind and ended up
Come to
running
you.
straight to me
Yep.
because the way the wind kept swirling, they couldn't tell which direction was, and they ended up coming to me.
Yeah.
So it's just
Totally
because
different if you're working in on a bull and
Right.
you've got him pegged and the wind's wrong. Man, you got to wait until it's right or back out.
or like if
Right.
they're bedding,
Yeah.
and I know they're in an area and the wind's doing that, I'm going to stay away until I get that wind to calm down and towards the evening or afternoon so that it doesn't blow them out. But if I'm just working through an area and trying to find it, a lot of times I just keep going, man, and just bite the bullet. If the wind gets unsteady, then of course I want to work with the wind either at a crosswind or in my face or something like that. But, I feel your pain. There was one day Manano and Luis were with me. It seemed like we walked for 3 hours in all different directions. And it seemed like every time we turned and went one way, the wind switched. Right.
Right.
Oh, Joe, that's just because you suck at geometry, man.
Yeah,
round
does.
and round and round.
And here's the other thing too, is winds in the mountains.
Yeah.
It can be different on one side of the hill than it is
Right.
over here, right?
No doubt.
You
Yeah,
know,
because it bends it. It bends the wind, the shape of the shape of the mountain, the shape of the way the trees are. I mean, it kind of bends the wind. It's pretty wild for
well,
sure.
how many times have you gone up one side of a ridge with the wind at your back, and you get over and you get on the other side? Now the wind's in your face.
Face, yeah.
It doesn't make any sense, but that's
Yeah.
just how it works. Just like the wind, how it flows through those hills sometimes. So, yeah. I feel your pain with that one. All right, I got one, and this has happened to me so many times that we actually developed a lot of our skill sets. You know, you've been hunting, you've been working an area, you're seeing sign, and you've been calling, you get no response of any kind, or an animal hasn't come in, and then it starts to get dark, and within 150 yards of you, a bull screams off, you know, or they wait till right after it gets dark before they start sounding off.
Yeah.
You know, have you guys had that happen?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. So
They're not
what if
talking,
elk
man.
are only responding after dark?
Well, I mean,
Get
we
a
said
good
it 1,000
spotlight.
times. Yeah.
You're so bad.
Yeah. Get that one-eyed beagle out. I mean, I don't know what that is.
No, hey,
Joking, guys. Just a joke.
I mean,
That's
if you're able to pinpoint the area,
put them to bed.
yeah,
Talk to them in
just
the morning, babe. They're
right.
still there.
right. That's one option. The other option, if you can come back, but then you know they're responding vocally, but doesn't necessarily mean they can't respond by coming in and checking out and being curious, right? So,
right.
You know,
I would highly discourage calling him in. You know, it's going to be
Oh
dark.
yeah, after
oh,
dark.
no,
Oh,
not
yeah.
not at dark. But what I'm saying is, once you have the area, you know,
Yeah,
identified.
but you see this all the time, right? Like look at what happened to us a couple years ago in Colorado. You know, there was elk everywhere and the sign was everywhere, and like vocally for the most part it was just like super early in the morning or
Mute.
right whenever the sun was going down, right? They would just go crazy.
You're right, Cole.
So I think you really need to look at your maps at that point and see what areas that you're missing and see where are the potential like hiding spots that these animals are going to be. They're just tucked into these little nooks and crannies during the day that they can hide from the pressure. So they've got to be there somewhere. And then I think once you key in on that super press sign, then you need to just start, setting up and doing a little slow play.
Back then in Colorado, they were responding not by making sounds, but they would come in
Silent.
They were
Yes.
coming in silently. Yeah. I mean, I know the cow that Manano killed came in silent. The bull I killed came in silent.
Yeah.
Well, I take that back.
No.
I take that back. That bull actually responded.
He was responding to my cow
but the
calls.
bull that Beto killed came in silent.
Yeah. Well, he bugled once, but he was a pretty good ways out, and then we didn't hear him again for 45 minutes, you know, and it took him that long to figure out where we were and come on in there. But when he walked into the set, he didn't make a peep,
right?
You know? And I mean, just think about how many bulls and cows Chav saw, and he was in a little spot that was really close to everybody. And I mean,
and they weren't making any sounds, were they, Chav?
No, they all came in silent.
And to Cole's point, it's like, I mean, obviously you're seeing the sign, they're there.
Yeah.
Just kind of identify where that is, and then, you know, understand that they may still come in silently, even if they don't respond.
Well, there's some other reasons they could be not responding too. I mean, it could be that early part of the season where they just not feeling it so much.
Yeah.
So there could be things that you could do, tactics to try to pull them using certain types of scenarios. It could also be that you've got really, really hot weather, and so they're waiting till it's cooled down. You know, they're being lazy in their bed and not really doing anything until then, you know. So if that's the case, like Luis said, man, I'd mark where that booger is, back out on it, and I'd be on it first thing in the
First
morning, man,
light.
when it's nice and
Yep.
cool, and he's going to, be getting after it. The other thing could be is because it's a full moon situation, and so you could add any of that stuff into it, and so they're coming out a little bit later, become a little nocturnal because of that. But again, that's a great situation to mark where they're at and to get on them first thing in the morning. And it doesn't mean you have to kill that bull in the morning. You can put that bull to bed, as long as that bull's sounding off. It's, again, depending on time of year, right?
Yep.
Depending on what's happening, if he's with cows, if he's without cows, if he's loaning it. There's a lot of variables to that, but there's a lot of reasons why that bull could be waiting till it gets dark. Either it's just too hot, or he's not hot, or he's coming out late because he's got all night to be screaming, right? So
I think that partially answers too that the what if here. What if you're seeing tons of sign and smelling elk but not getting any responses? I mean, you pretty much answer that.
yeah.
Yeah.
The only
That
thing
was the question he was
that
looking at.
we didn't say what I would do in that situation though. And, just because I'm not hearing any responses doesn't mean that elk aren't responding. I mean,
Exactly.
again, it's time of year, but I could use certain scenarios, just like what happened to me this year, man. I mean,
Mhm.
I killed a bull this year that never made a noise, but I knew that the elk were there, went in, did a breeding scenario. I sounded like one of our love straighted scenarios. That bull is just love straighted. And next thing you know, here they come, man, and get an opportunity at 30 yards. So there's things that you can do. If I'm seeing all kinds of sign in the air, if I'm catching smells of elk and I think the elk are there, then I'm going to go ahead and do some of my own scenarios, paint a picture, and try to bring that animal
Always.
into me.
Yeah, you got to keep working, man. Keep after them. Just because if there's sign, you see fresh scat, you see fresh dropping, you smell elk urine, you smell the elk, you seeing trees blown up, fresh trees blown up, and you see their tracks. I mean, they're there. You just got to keep working. Find that hot button, man. But put on your own scenarios, and a lot of times they're going to come in silent. So be ready, but give them time. The longer they are away from the rut, the less they're going to come roaring right up in there. It may take them 30, 40 minutes to come get closer and closer and closer, see what's up.
And
So
you
give
might
them
have a
time.
better
Right.
chance of one that's by themselves than
Right.
one that's cowed up, as
Right.
well. But the thing is when you're doing a scenario setup and you're creating that reason for that animal to come to you, you have to believe in that, and you have to know that animals can and will come into you, and they will
Right.
come into you silent.
I would try to anticipate the route that he takes going to the bed. So that way, if he's silent, I would just try to pinpoint, based on sign and play the wind, try to intercept that, silent bull.
So you
Is it-
actually hit on something that is one of my favorite strategies is, if we're having silent bulls, we know that they're going and bedding at a certain time of day, right? One of the things that I like to do is work, first of all, on the outside of a bedding area with a scenario to see if I can pull an animal out. And if I don't, then I like to actually go through a bedding area just with real light cow calls, stopping, listening, and looking for that bull that's going to get up her bed and come and check and see what I am, right? So that's a great strategy too, as well.
But you're not setting up any of that or doing any of that unless you're either have a confirmation of there's actually elk calling, or you're getting like the sign that tells you there's fresh animals
Close by.
within the past day or so, right?
Yep.
You're not
Well-
just, because I think that might be misinterpreting like what is fresh sign to like what because we're not just out there doing cold calls, right? We know like
Right.
this year, whenever me and Joel set up in Idaho, I just told him like we never heard an elk bugle. I was like, this is the spot we're gonna call a bull in right here, because like you could pick up fresh steaming dung, right? You knew they were there.
Yeah, they're there.
So that's
Yeah.
I think guys make that mistake. They see like 2-week-old stuff and they think that that's fresh sign, and they set up on that, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But if you haven't seen anything better than that, what are you doing then, Joe?
If I'm doing a scenario, it's most definitely because I'm finding fresh track with fresh urine and fresh droppings, or I'm smelling out coming in a direction. But if I am moving through, going through and I move up to areas on the north side and I start hunting through bedding areas, it's not necessarily because I'm seeing fresh sign. I'm moving through bedding areas, trying to drum one up and just moving through that area, giving cow calls as I'm doing it. And then if I do come across fresh sign while I'm doing that, then I might go ahead and do a scenario. But it's just like when I start out in the morning, you've been with me, Cole, man, as I'm moving, I'm cow calling, I'm chumming. Right. So when I 100%. Get in the bedding area, I slow it down huge when I'm doing that.
Yeah. I just don't want anybody to misinterpret and think that like we just go through an area that feels good to us.
Right.
And we set up and try to make it like we're seeing the proper signs to tell us that, hey, it's time to pump the brakes and do a scenario. Yeah. And then if we don't have any luck, then we'll push a little further,
Yeah, we got.
I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
We got elk responding, so it creates a way for us to set a scenario.
I'm going to do a scenario because I've either smelled, heard, or seen. Okay, and that seen is either physically seeing that animal, or hearing that fresh animal. Sign. What's that?
Or fresh sign.
Yeah, or seeing fresh sign that tells me that those critters are within distance that they're going to hear me, right? So, and it depends on what's happening that time of day. Like, if I'm on their same level or in an area, but if I think it's a time of day where they're moving up, then I'm going to probably go up and try to work those bedding areas.
Beto, I see a what if that has your name all over it. It's the one that says, what if you look up to see a bull staring at you and you don't have an arrow knocked? What should you do?
Been there, done that. I'll definitely answer that. Well, when that happens to you, you got to really focus and you got to really concentrate on being still, man, because he's looking to try and figure out what either made that sound, or if you were calling. I don't know what the scenario is why the bull's looking up
or
movement. You see a bull staring. You don't, when he's staring at you, the last thing you want to do is make any type of furtive movements that would alert him. So that happened to us. A bull walks in the set and we're videotaping some ducks in a wallow. And I'm serious. We've been calling for like 45 minutes, man. All these scenarios, raking trees and all kinds of stuff. Winds gassing out of the north. I mean, it's probably blowing 20, 25 miles an hour, gusting up to maybe 30, 35. And so I happen to look to my right and this bull comes walking in the set and he doesn't even know we're there. And look, there's three of us. Actually, there's three of us standing there. So we're smart enough not to be standing in the wide open. We're sitting in a little evergreen there, have an evergreen backdrop, and then we're sitting in the aspens. So when he walked in there, he stopped. He just looked right at us. And if any one of us would have moved during that time, it's over. But we stayed real calm, stayed real collected, and the bull walked right past us at about 12 yards, and he walked right into that wallow, and he shoved his head down in the middle of that wallow. Well, ain't nobody got it. Brendan didn't even have his bow up. It was sitting down by his side. Me and RC did have our bows, so we're going to have to knock an arrow, right? So we just started moving really slow. Well, in the process of moving really slow, RC rubs up against one of them aspen trees and he goes while he's trying to reach and knock an arrow. And that bull shot his head up and looked over there at us. But we froze again, man, and it was hilarious because he's got lettuce hanging out of his mouth and dripping and everything. He's looking at us like, man, what was that? I heard something, but the wind's gassing too, right? So he's still a little confused. He goes right back to eating. And so now we're back at it. We're trying to get an arrow knocked, So I get an arrow knocked. RC gets an arrow knocked, and RC's going to draw. Bull's at 21 yards, kind of quartering away. RC goes to draw, and I'll be dadgum if he don't hit that dadgum tree again. And that bull jerks his head up again, right? And RC stops, doesn't even move a muscle. The bull jerks his head up again. And I'm telling you, we just froze like statues. And we'd be like, all three of us are going, no, don't move. I mean, we're talking, but it's, real low guttural talk, So the bull lets his head back down and eats again, and RC lets his bow down because he can't get drawn in that position. So I go to get myself in a position where I can draw on the bull. RC's actually standing on my left and Brendan's on the right. I'm in the middle, and I kind of scoot over towards RC. Well, when I did, my arrow was not yet all the way on, like where you push up. I use a QAD wrist where you push it up and rotate it up where it's in position. So it fell on the riser. When it fell on the riser, it went tink, tink, like that, and the bull shot his head up again, And this time he was not liking it, right? He was like, man, something is really up, right? But again, we were froze, used our camo, we froze again. And the next time RC tried to draw again, and then he heard RC move around. And when he did, RC got to full draw, but the bull boogered. When the bull boogered, he ran out there, probably it was 53 yards. I stopped him with a cow call, and RC goes, he's too far for me. He's too far. I said, I thought he was about 50 yards, and luckily Brendan had already had his rangefinder out, and I was at full draw. Brendan said 53. I sent it, and it was over. But I guarantee you, that took every bit of 2 or 3 minutes. 4 or 5,
That's
4
an
minutes.
eternity.
It is an eternity when a bull has got you pegged and he knows exactly what you are.
It must be
But
something about RC, because you had a similar situation with RC at the top of the mountain too, when you guys got to that top of that little hill.
Yeah, exactly. If y'all keep your nerve and you stay quiet and let the elk settle down, he'll go back to doing what he was going to be doing. So don't move when he's standing still looking at you. Let the bull go doing then you can start to get yourself in a position to where you can knock an arrow, right? This year, we actually let those cows walk by us, right? They came walking right up to us, and we don't have an arrow knocked or nothing. We're about to die. He and I both are climbing this big old hill. So we're standing there huffing and puffing. Neither one of us have an arrow knocked. And these two cows walk in front of us at 8 yards, man. And they both look at us like a calf looking at the new gate. And they're like, oh my God, who are they? But again, we were in our camo and standing in some thicker brush. And there was no way we're knocking an arrow there. So we had to let the cows pass. Once the cows got past, we did knock an arrow, but that little calf saw me move when I did get to draw, got ready to draw. She saw me move, and I learned something real well there is you just let them walk all the way off, and then you can call them back to you. You don't have to try and get it done right there, but the main thing is don't let the bull see you move.
It's funny, the different perspectives, because it's funny what you saw when you saw this question and what I see, because I've had it so many times when I'm going through the woods and I'm coming through with the brush and all of a sudden I look up and there's a bull standing there just staring at me, or I've been doing a scenario and I didn't give it enough time, and I stand up, I take a step and I look and there's a bull standing there staring at me. Like what we did, you can remember, it was us and Brandon, and we were going down that one trail, that 2-track, and then come around the brush and there's a big bull because we've been calling. He's just standing right there looking at us, right? Just like that. And that's kind of what was in my head, is how sometimes you can come up and you can kind of come through the the trees, and there's a bull standing there looking at you, or has watched you walking up to that bull, for a while now. And I've seen that where they'll sit there and they'll just stand there while you're moving and coming in, because they don't really know what you are. And the moment that you stop, sometimes they'll like, I'll get nervous and boom, they're out of there. I've actually, because I have two ways to think about this, man, is that I know that if I don't do anything, that bull, like in that situation, generally they're going to bust me and they're gone. I'm never going to see them again. So I have actually knocked an arrow, pulled back, and killed a bull while it stared at me. Because I kept moving when that happened, and I just did it. I was like, I'm not going to get a chance, so, as soon
We had
as
an 8-minute standoff.
What's that?
You and I had an 8-minute stare down with a bull. I mean, staring directly at us, 8 minutes long.
But that's not a bull though. That's not a bull that like spotted us,
No, had no clue we were
because
there.
we come up, right? That's a bull that came up looking for us. So when I heard the question, to me it was like you look up and there's a bull staring at you, and you don't have an arrow knocked. And I can
you
tell
gotta
you,
get it knocked.
yeah, or you have no chance. So to me, it's different with a cow than it is a bull.
Mm-hmm.
I think bulls will let you get away with some movement where a cow, it's just
she's out. yeah. They throw caution to the wind. They're out of there.
Yeah,
I've been in those scenarios, and one thing I know for sure is if they see you moving while they're standing still, it's a big no-no. But you can get away with some movement if they're moving. And I just know that if I'm still enough that they allow me to get an arrow knocked, that I look, then you got to draw, right? So no matter what, you got to get your bow drawn back, whether you've knocked an arrow, with him looking at you or not, but you have nothing to lose. If you're up there and you don't feel like he's going to move on, or, you can kind of gauge him too when he's looking at you. Is he getting you to try to move? Is he moving his head, ducking around? I mean, there are a lot of things, is his ears laid back? Is he in full alert? I mean, there are a lot of ways to gauge how that bull's feeling too.
and that's mostly how I've seen them. Is I come up and man, they're just like this. They got those ears, and they're just like stop, head up, and they're just looking at you like that. Now you can always, what Cole did on our last podcast, you just bark at that sucker when you see him like that. Just lock him up for a second, because it's a bull. And if it's in the rut and he thinks that, because you got that doggone bow. Have you ever seen what guys do with moose? How they'll take and hold their bow and stuff up there?
Right.
I think sometimes you can buy yourself some time just by confusing them. So, it doesn't hurt to try. Otherwise,
man, you got nothing.
I keep my nano confused.
I see another good one here, Joe. Guys say, what if I can see bulls feeding 400 yards off, but they could care less about the calls I'm making?
Are you thinking of the same time I'm thinking of when you?
Yeah, oh yeah. It don't matter if they're not responding to you. You go to them, and keep doing what you're doing. But you see them 400 yards off, man, get after them.
Well, if you're seeing bulls together that aren't responding to your calls, that's because of the time of year. They're buddied up still, and they're really not caring about the cow call or like we've done this. I don't know if you remember, but there's an incident where somebody gave me a decoy and set me up in a bad situation. And I've never to this day blamed them for that, but we come over an area and we look down and there's 3 bulls down in this bottom down there. So what do? We cow call. They put their head up and they look and they go back to feeding. So what do? We scream at them, right? They bring their head up, go back to feeding. They could care less. So
and they're about what, 250 from us, Joe?
About that, 250, 300 probably, right? Down in the bottom. Yeah. So what we decided to do was we were going to just, if it wasn't a single cow call, if it wasn't that a bull, bugling was going to get them to do anything, then we were going to go to their herding instinct, to their herd instinct. And we put Chav further down the hill. We told Chav to go ahead and get down. I went way back further up there. We set up a decoy and started sounding like a herd up there, you know, and had the decoy so that they could see the decoy, in fact. Now, when that bull heard all that racket and saw that decoy,
Yeah,
at
he's
first,
coming.
he was coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Gilbert messed the whole situation up, but
Yeah, I sure did. Oh man, that bull he was roaring right up to Chav. I was like, man, Chav's gonna kill him any second, right? He got within, I don't know, 40 yards of Chav, maybe 45.
Yeah, about 40 yards, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm
I
like,
was
why
waiting for
is
that
this
30.
bull?
Yeah.
Yeah, I said, why is this bull not getting an arrow through him? And then all of a sudden he locks up, man. He locks up and he looks and boom, he takes off hauling butt, man. I'm like, what in the world happened? The wind's in our face, everything's good. And then for sure, man, there's a big silhouette that's right behind the decoy because we're silhouetted right out in the middle of the sunlight. And you can see Joe standing through the middle of the decoy, man. It was hilarious, dude.
Well,
Joe's like, oh my
we didn't
God,
have
dude.
the sun up when we started, and then the sun rose behind us during the setup, and it just lit me up behind that decoy, man. Like, yeah. But the point I want to make is, if you got bulls that could care less that you're calling to it, it's probably time of year. It might even be a bull with cows that doesn't want to get away from them. So you've got to change your tactic. You got to go towards one of their other modes that's going to do that. And if it's a bull with cows, that might mean either you got to bring the cows to you, or you got to go in and get to that bull's bubble and work on that fight or flight, you know, really challenge or start calling his cows to you when you get in his bubble. Right. So that.
Oh, what would you do if you saw him out there 400 yards?
Yeah, I mean, that'd be the tactic that I would use, is just to, you know, try to make something that, you know, is almost irresistible. I think, you know, that they have to come kind of check out.
Yeah.
I would pretty much dump everything at the sink at them. You know, if that was my only target of the day, you know, I would sit there and work it until it was dead.
I'll tell you another thing. Y'all don't sleep on old Ninja over there. He'll sneak you right in the middle of them 400 yards, and he'll sneak in there. You don't
That's
say
the
a
other
word.
option. Yeah.
Kill him like a thief in the night, son. I'm telling you straight up. I've been there and done it with Mr. Chavez there. I'm telling you. We snuck right in the middle of a herd of elk, and they never even knew we were there. The Ninja can do it. For sure.
Topography has a big impact, though, right? If
for sure.
It's out on the open field.
Had to have the right stuff. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
because if you're going to
However,
sound like a herd, it helps to pull them past where they can't see. If you're making sounds where they can see and they don't see another elk, that's where the decoy paid off. If you're in an area where you're making sounds and they can't see another elk, you've just blown it right there.
Yeah.
So topography is real critical to that.
What if the elk are running hard and you have multiple opportunities and jump balls on only the first date? Shot or pass?
Personal choice.
Yeah.
Shoot or pass.
If
What if
it's
the other
brown,
choice?
it's going down.
Yeah, I mean, I get it depends, right? I mean, if you ask me, and probably most of us in this group, we'll say we'll shoot, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, because it depends at the level of difficulty of where you're hunting. Colorado, I mean, we were shooting
a legal bull.
Yeah. And illegal bull, that's correct. But it depends. So, you know, Beto was in 4 years, Beto, before you decided to take a shot and passed on several bulls?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it just depends on where you're at.
Made Joe and RC nuts.
Well, but
I think
understand, for 4 years, he went home with nothing.
Did.
Correct.
Did it. And
But by
I
choice.
was okay about it. Yeah, it was by choice.
And he was okay by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's where you are in your hunting careers, guys. You know, and no right answer is the right, wrong answer or right answer in this.
Where you are in your hunting career, dude, you had not killed an elk, man. You were driving us nuts, dude. Had not ever killed an elk. Acting like in my hunting
My
career.
money, my hunt. It is what it is, baby.
Listen,
if I wanted to go home, eat tag soup, I was going to do it. For me, Joe, it was about the experience. And
I know exactly what it was, dude.
Yeah, and I after I killed that bull, it sent me into a killing spree, and it doesn't really matter. I love to eat elk meat, and for me, guys, if a legal elk gets in my way, now don't get me wrong. If I see a big bull, he's in trouble because
Yeah.
I will forego shooting a smaller one to get a big one. But at the end of the day, yeah, if a smaller bull walks in, he's gonna get the missile because I like eating elk meat. It don't matter if it's legal elk. I'm shooting him the first day. Especially archery, guys. Every bull you kill, every cow you kill with a bow is a trophy, man.
Yeah.
If they speak one word to me, that I'm harvesting that elk. If a cow calls to me and I call her in, she's getting it. If a bull responds to me and comes in, he's getting it. Like if I talk to them and we communicate, then it's going down.
Love
That's
that.
the way it goes.
Love that, Cole.
What I love about this question, though, is that I'm not able to tell you how many times and how many people that I've talked to that have said that they showed up on their first day and things were going berserk, man. And so they had all these multiple opportunities, bulls coming by them. They were younger bulls. They were, still nice class bulls, but they figured that, man, if it's this good right now, the rest of this hunt is going to be awesome.
So what they don't know is it can shut off in a
And
heartbeat.
then zero.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Ask the kid, Kilpatrick, how he
How
he knows about that.
0 to 0 real quick.
Real quick.
Yeah. And here's the thing that you got to realize is, again, this has to do with time of year, but especially if you're hunting early and animals are going off, that's because there is a cow in estrus.
Yep.
That cow is only going to be in estrus for less than 20 hours, right? And once that cow comes out of estrus, then everything's going to go quiet. All right.
Until the next one does.
Yeah. Until the next one does. So, what you have today, and look, as a guide, I tell my guys constantly, do not pass on the first day what you're going to shoot on the last.
Exactly.
Right? Because then you end up in a situation where you're constantly going, well, I should have. If there's any question in your mind, unless you have it, you've already convinced yourself, no, this is what, like Gil said, that he was wanting that particular animal, drove us nuts, but he was wanting that particular animal, right? And if you're in that situation and you're happy with it and you can go home and say, hey, Que Sera, I had a blast. But, if you're I would tell you, if you're early in your elk hunting career, harvest an animal.
Yeah, man, get them down.
Because once you start doing that and you start finding, how that works and get that going, it just gets easier.
Gain the confidence.
Yeah,
That's right, Manano. It gets easier.
I really like this one, man. And I'm not able to tell you how many people this is happening to out there, and they don't admit it or they don't know. But what if your diaphragm call gets stretched? It sounds horrible, and you're 3 miles from camp. So
you ain't carried enough of them with you.
What you do is you take and you bend it to where you stretch that latex back out, and then you just barely tweak it just a little bit. And then you're good to go for that rest afternoon or till the next day.
Would you repeat that again for the people out there?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
cool,
what I do is I'll tweak the frame to where I can tell it's not. Basically, I re-stretch the latex on it, and I'll either bend the frame or I'll try to stretch it a little bit. You can only do it with something that has an aluminum frame, but if you think it's wore out, believe it or not, you can kind of tweak that frame and get that latex to stretch just a minute amount, and be able to. I've had them last a day, maybe 2 days after that.
Joe would just borrow a
be
used
real
one.
careful because.
No,
and I don't carry just one, fellas. I carry three or four.
But I can tell you,
I've got 10 on me at all times.
a lot of people are screaming on them a lot, and sometimes they only carry one with them. But I can tell you this: what you're going to lose is the top of your bugle. You're going to have a hard time hitting a high note. So it doesn't mean that you have to hit that high note, and it doesn't have to be, you know, a location bugle. Again, you can still get some cow sounds out of that. You can still do that. You can still get some of those other sounds off of there. You can get the growls, you can get the huffs, you can get little lazy bugles, just where you need the low noise.
Yeah.
Just like that. So it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily have to be
The one thing I know I won't do is go back to camp for 3 miles.
No,
Yeah.
no, and I carry an external too, guys. I mean, I carry a hand blown external call. So, you know, whether you pick up a green weenie or a Make It a Bull Crazy or a Carlton hyper call, I mean, either one of those calls are amazing, and you keep them in your pack, and you got them for when you need them.
There's raking, there's glunking, there's different, cow noises you can still make with that diaphragm, even though it's not hitting that top sound on a bugle, right?
Well, I don't know about y'all, but Cole, Joe, y'all carry multiple diaphragms when you're out anyway, right?
Yes.
I carry 3 different companies,
Yeah, me too.
and probably 5, 4 to 5 of each company.
Yeah.
Usually.
I have my favorite. I
start
make sure that
killing
I have 3 of my favorite broke in.
Yeah.
And then I have like 2 really light that, if I'm in tight with a cow and I really want to sound real light cow calls or calf.
Sugar.
Sugar's coming, buddy.
Man. I love the sugar. And that's the question, Joe. Is the sugar going to be available for
What?
Yes,
if
sir.
the
Absolutely.
sugar is not-
2023?
It'll be ready for 2023, man. And well, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, we have the grinder that is our signature call right now. It's a great call for, working, grinding out there day in, day out. And we have the other half of that coming, which is our sugar. And what that is, buddy, it is a calf call that is so sweet. That's why we call it sugar, man. And
I love it.
It was just awesome. So that's going to be our 2 that you can carry with you, and you can do anything.
And you can make really good sounds right off the bat. I mean, you really don't have to break it in that much. I mean, even Manano can make sounds with it.
That's saying something, man. Right?
It is.
No, but
Joe, this is a really do what?
You can't scream a lot on it because you'll blow it out.
Right.
You can't, but man, it's an amazing cow call, and the lower register cow calls that you can make with it is, man, it's sexy. It really is, dude.
More of a closer.
What?
It's a closer. That's
It is
exactly
More of a
what it is.
closer call.
Yeah, no doubt.
Closer.
100%.
I like that, Cole.
Yeah. Joe, there's a really good question here about, what if, elk were screaming yesterday in the same spot and it's crickets today? Would you leave or would you stay?
Well, I think we kind of just talked about that one. That's a lot like what we were talking about before, when we were talking about, hey, you got bulls screaming now, shoot or pass. Well, because the next day can go crickets like that.
For sure.
And I mean, if you have bulls that are in the area that we're screaming, those animals are still around that area somewhere, so I'm getting out there and doing what we were talking about before. I'm getting out there, I'm working till I find the sign, I'm working the areas they should be in, I'm finding those bedding areas, and I'm going to be doing my scenarios. So
just because they shut up don't mean they're not there.
That doesn't mean they're not there. Right. Yeah. I mean, look, again, you've heard me say this. If you want to consistently kill elk, learn to kill quiet elk.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I agree. 100%. And learn to keep moving to find them. Because, you just one more ridge over and things can change in 30 seconds, man.
Yep. I think we'll call it a night, Gil.
One more, Joe. I'm gonna get you to answer this one more. Yeah. What if you have a bull screaming and a hard rain comes in? Keep after it, or would you wait?
Chav, what do you think?
I'd say just kind of wait the rain out, then go after it, because there's a tendency for them to let up their defenses after a rainfall, and also rainfall kind of. It seems like the wind dies down too, and kind of settles the thermals and all that. So, I just get after it, but I would wait the rain out, or, if it's visible, you can actually get in much closer.
Yeah, if it's visible
and go
and
that
it's
route.
raining, you can work in on that animal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. They won't hear you at all.
Yeah, the
And
noise
the scent won't be a problem.
Yeah, because the whole woods are alive with scent then, especially when it's
the
raining.
lightning does create a problem.
Yeah, I'm out on the lightning, fellas. I'm hunkering down. I'm gonna get in Manano's hammock and maybe have Cole's tarp with me and wait it out.
And it depends on what kind of rain. If it's a drizzling rain, I'm still hunting. If it's a drizzling rain.
Yeah.
If it's a hard rain, I'm putting everything
Hunkering down.
underneath my poncho. I'm sitting down and I'm waiting it out, because that's what those critters are going to do too.
Just what they're talking about is hard rain.
Yeah, hard rain.
And what's really cool, man, is sometimes after those rains, when it gets really, really cool and cold, those critters start popping off.
Yeah.
And, it's really cool when that starts happening. So, if I have a bull that's screaming, he ain't going to go anywhere. He ain't going to go run off just because it starts, storming real hard. He's probably just going to bed down there or just be walking a little bit. So, the area where he's at, and you can kind of work in after that, after the scent goes down, and possibly even get one speaking up because it's cool. It's cooled off some. But, before we go, Gil, before you close us out, I'll tell you something that a lot of people don't think about that I've had happen too, is like I'm starting to work an animal and all of a sudden a jet or a plane comes over really loud and low. Vehicles I found on highways are different because they're constant noises and stuff. But I don't think generally when I hear that happening in a plane, or a loud jet comes right over top, when I'm there where elk are, I usually don't say a word. I just wait. And then I wait for a little bit after that sound has gone away before I start up again. I just think it's unnatural to call when you have that kind of interruption. I think it interrupts them. I think it, shuts them up just a little bit myself. But
I remember a time Chav and I were hunting together. It was just before I'd killed the big bull, and it was really raining, like pouring down rain. It even hailed on us. And we got up right after it got done. We got under our ponchos and stuff, and we got up out of where we were, kind of took refuge, and there was a double rainbow, and I got a picture of Chav with that double rainbow behind him, and it's one of the most awesome pictures I've ever taken. It had a double rainbow behind him, and I remember as soon as we got up, man, it wasn't 15 minutes later, a bull popped off. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But all of that commotion and everything kind of lit them up, and we were able to get on them. We were running out of light, so we knew that those elk were in that area. And then the next morning, that's when we killed that big bull. So
one of my favorite days is when it's real super cloudy, kind of drizzly, in the mornings. That extends that hunt in the morning, because it's going to keep things cooler, and it's going to keep some animals from, just wanting to get up someplace so quick. I love those cool, dreary days, man. They're just awesome. Yeah.
Me too, for sure. Well, those are fantastic questions. And I'm like Joe said, y'all keep them coming. He'll probably have a part 3 here before you know it. Guys, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe, rate and review us. You got to go to Apple Podcasts or iTunes to review us, and you can check out more elk hunting content at ElkBros.com. And a reminder, if any of our listeners would like their questions answered on the show, just send your question to info@ElkBros.com. That's INFO at ElkBros.com. And like we say down here in the Lone Star State, husbands, kiss your wives, wives, kiss your husbands, hug your babies, keep your broad head sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Yes, sir.
And for all our grinders out there, here's some more music from my brother, Tony Wintrip, to close out the show.
All right, man. Peace, everybody. Thanks.
I get my goods from the river and the woods. I get my highs climbing a mountainside. I get my life on I'm family strong. The fall I'm gonna get my elk on. At daylight, I'm sitting just right, about to let an arrow fly. I get my goods from the river and the woods. I get my goods from the river and the woods. I get my bait on, I'm metalhead strong. Land a glass rod, get my drift on. At the tail out, he's cranking on the tip. Boy, I'm about to rip some lips. Yeah. I get my goods from the river and the woods. I get my highs climbing a mountainside. I get my boots on, I'm UA strong, going way deep with my pack on. And base camp with the basin view, and mountain house meals gonna get me through. I get my goods from the river and the woods. I get my goods from the river and the woods. Now I get my goods from the river and the woods. I get my highs under a starlit sky. I get my life on American strong. I'm living off the land